Hi, everyone. Welcome to Did You Know for Wednesday night. Tonight's topic was just there a second ago. Did you know there are exercises you can do to increase your IQ? I really like this topic. I think this is going to be a fun conversation, and I think it's one that a lot of people know about in one way or another, but they may not know specifically. I'm going to move this a little bit. For some reason, when I move, I don't think, let's do this. There we go. I don't think that they know it specifically in the way of knowing how the brain works, but I think that there's some ideas we have about it. And so what I'd like to do is to both dispel some myths and to talk about what really is possible so that we can take advantage of that possibility. So I think I'm all set up here. I'd love to see sharing in the chat. So if you want to check in or have any questions or comments, please become involved. I love it. I got some comments this week on some videos, and I love digging into the conversation. So I'm going to begin tonight by, first of all, letting you know we are only 2 people away from having a channel name. So if you've been thinking about subscribing and maybe you think, okay, I'll give it a try, just to check and make sure I don't get pinged on things, I'm going to go ahead and subscribe today. When we get 2 more people, we get to have a channel name. And then also, if you do want to be notified, you do need to hit that bell notification icon. So if you just subscribe, it's kind of like hitting the like button on a Facebook page. You get, while you're on Facebook and stuff, you might get notifications, but you don't get them to your phone on YouTube. It's just if you're there searching for things. If you want notifications to your phone, you do need to hit that bell notification, and then they know to notify you, and they'll notify you if I'm live or if I upload anything new. So like last Thursday, I did the first class in relationship balancing, and you would have been notified that I uploaded that so that you could decide if you wanted to get engaged in the class. So that said, I want to pause for a moment and talk about Your Way Recovery and the fact that it launches this Saturday. And we are at $790 of our $2,000 goal for the launch. Now, I'm really excited because there's been a lot of activity with contributions in the last couple days, but I'm so excited about this event. I'm sure we're going to get there. And what I decided to do today was that since I see momentum building, I'm going to keep that open, and any contributions we get by Saturday or Sunday, whenever I close that particular campaign, anything we get over $2,000, that once we hit our $2,000 mark, anything we get over the top of that, I will contribute to the Black Lives Matter movement. So we only need the $2,000 at this moment. We'll need more in the future, but right now we can get by with that. So the contributions will go to that. It's important to me to give and to give back. And so I think that there's a lot of momentum for this movement right now, and I think we need to take advantage of the momentum in that movement so that we can make changes, so laws can be changed and people can be safe. I also think recovery is critical. If you've never suffered an addiction, it is a horrible, horrible experience. It is painful, and it is shameful, and it is isolating, and it's like being trapped in a box you can't get out of. And there are so many times during recovery where you get your hopes up, where you maybe seems like that box is open, and then you just find yourself back there again with a relapse. So I love the idea of presenting a program that can give people what I have, which is being completely free of addiction. I don't even have the common habits most people don't call addiction, even though it's technically addictive. I'm not addicted to TV or coffee or treats or anything like that. I don't have cravings like that anymore because of the change in brain function. I was horribly addictive before, and I always was just swapping out one addiction for another. And to be finally free of it, I don't have words for that as a person that suffered. So if you've suffered yourself, my heart's with you. The website is yourwayrecovery.org. The program goes live on Saturday. It is completely free to the public. You can log on anonymously. I know that there's a lot of shame sometimes associated with addiction, so you don't need to join the group. That's so there will be one group that will have forums and ways to connect and everything, and then there will be another group that's completely anonymous that you can log in with no email or anything else, and you can participate in the program, and no one ever needs to know. You can go into an incognito window and work on having this different opportunity. But also I want to reach out to those people. If you have anyone that you know that's suffering addiction, it may seem like, oh, just quit, but it is a really painful trap because it's survival. The reason why the brain becomes addicted is because it's trying to survive. So it thinks it's dying. So you're talking about a person who continually, their brain thinks they're dying and that they're so desperate to live, they reach out to something that's actually killing them. It's really heartbreaking, and it's devastating to our country. So registered addiction to substance abuse, alcohol and drug addiction is 1 in 8 people in our country. And when you talk about costs, $223 billion was spent last year due to addiction. Insurance claims, really expensive addiction recovery programs, court costs, lost income from businesses that are affected by it. You just think of all the car accidents, everything. There's just so much pain around this. So, every little bit helps. Today's my birthday, and I have been pleading with people that as a gift to me, if you know of anyone, or if you've ever suffered yourself, or if you're grateful to me, if I've ever done anything in your life to help advance it forward or to make it feel a little bit better, I just ask, even give $1 or $2 if you have it. There is an option to do recurring monthly support, which is really beautiful. This is an amazing cause. I'm really proud to be part of it. And so anyway, I'm reaching out to people and I'm saying, for my birthday, I want to reach this goal. I want to reach this $2,000. And we're climbing. All day we've been climbing, and I've been sharing this little thermometer, and it's been a lot of fun. So that is going to continue. I'm going to be sending private messages in Facebook, and I'm going to be, I've been doing that already, but I'll be doing more. I'm going to be reaching out everywhere I can because this is just so important, and we're going to reach that goal before Saturday. I'm really excited about that. Okay, the other thing I want to let you know is with this new recovery program, our schedule is changing. Also, in addition to that, because of the loss of income from the contributions I wasn't getting, I've had to get a job. And so my work hours will be from 10 to 6. I don't know the days yet, but they're going to be from 10 to 6. So I've bumped my programs. Now, what's going to happen is at 6:30, when I'm off work, at 6:30, I will be having the group, the recovery group. So the recovery group will be meeting for a check-in. And then at 7, I will be offering the brain hack and the meditation, but there'll be practices to help us improve the same brain function that people in addiction recovery are improving from. We all need to improve this brain function of the amygdala. And so I'm going to be giving actual tools, practices, exercises to do that. And so we will be beginning that on... I think it's on the 1st of July. Sorry, I'm distracted because somebody pulled up in front of my house and it's my birthday, and so people might randomly show up, which I hope not, because I'm doing this event right now. um, anyway, sorry, that was very distracting. I can't see who it is getting out of their car. But okay, no, they're not coming here. They parked in front of my house, but they're going across the street. I'm sorry about that. I was like panicked. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Anyway, so what's gonna happen is 6:30 group, 7 o'clock. So our live hacks and meditations are going to be at 7 p.m. on Wednesday and Sunday. So instead of 6 p.m., we're going to be 7 p.m. They'll go till 7:30, and then at 7:30 I'll meet with the advanced practices group. So take note of that. It happens next Wednesday, is July 1st. And so it happens on that day. All that said, that was a lot of information. So I'm going to jump right in because I want time to make sure we get through this conversation of the IQ. Again, if you have any questions or comments, please jump on and ask them, or share with us the things you know, or even just say hi, especially if you're new. Hop on, let me know you're here. The chat in both Facebook and YouTube are open. So what I have here is I want to talk about what IQ is first. I think a lot of times now, while it's true, the IQ that we adopt from our DNA does have an impact, but that doesn't mean we're bound by it. We're not bound by anything that is the DNA that we adopted. They've even proven that how a child is raised can change the color of their hair. It's really cool what neuroscience is studying. So what I want to talk about it though is IQ, how it works, what it means, and how you can improve it. So IQ, so the official definition of IQ is, of course, an intelligence quotient, which is a number representing a person's reasoning ability. So this is our ability to adapt and to learn. So to not just think through a problem. It goes beyond that. It's our ability to think through complex problems that may not be relative to anything we've learned before. And I'm going to talk about how we do that and how you can improve how you can train your brain to improve it. So the first thing that happens when we have a high IQ is this. So we have all these neurons in the brain, right? And you do have neuron clusters, and what brings neurons together and to form thoughts. You know, thoughts aren't generally just one piece of data in the brain. They're a combination of pieces of data. And what happens with Notch proteins is that you have two neurons, and the Notch protein binds the two neurons. But what happens is this. What happens here is genius. So what happens is this neuron, if this neuron is really, really good at math, so say it's off the charts good at math, and this neuron's kind of good at math, when those two neurons notch, this neuron loses all its math capabilities and develops something else, like, say, English. Because it doesn't make sense to have duplicate systems. Now, it does make this neuron more dependent on this neuron when it comes to the subject of math. But what happens is when one neuron fires, they both fire. So now when you hit a neuron that might be that math neuron, your English neuron is firing at the same time. And what this presents is this ability to have complex thought. Now, the way this shows up is this. Instead of memory, which is the data stored in the brain, being imagery or movies or the way what happened to us when we were 12 or whatever, a person with a lot of notched neurons stores information as individual pieces of data. So you have these neurons, and then what happens is those neurons all light up at once when you go into problem solve. And so they all become available. I have so many people when I'm in sessions say to me, you remember everything. And most of the people who know me know I do not remember everything. However, if information is applicable to the problem in front of me, my brain will randomly light up all of the applicable data. So what happens, if you've ever worked with me, you know this, what happens is I'll be in session with someone, and then they'll talk about something that happened when they were 12, and then they'll talk about something that happened at work, and then they'll talk about something that's happening in their relationship, and my brain will ping all those together, and then they come together like a puzzle piece and an individual thought that becomes a solution. And this is what happens when you're a solution-based thinker. So when you're a good problem solver or an out-of-the-box thinker, a visionary, an innovator, it's a specific brain function that's happening that's causing us the ability to do this. I learned about this in detail watching a program that I talk about a lot, which was about bees and how our brains work like bees. And the concept is the bigger the hive, the smarter the hive. Hives that are big get highly intelligent, whereas a single bee is not so smart. And so with this, our brain is the same. A single neuron by itself doesn't really know anything. However, if we are firing more than one neuron at a time, our ability to see something from multiple perspectives is expanded, right? If I'm firing 10 neurons instead of one, I'm going to see 10 different perspectives. And the higher the IQ, the more neurons are firing, basically. In basic concept, it's more complicated than that, but that's a good basic way to look at it. So the more neurons you can use at once, the more intelligent you are, the higher your IQ, right? So when we get to this point, we see from all these different perspectives, we come to a place where we don't have as much confirmation bias, or we have an ability to look past our confirmation bias, because it may be the math neuron has this confirmation bias and this structure it lives by, but then the art neuron doesn't. It looks at it from an entirely different perspective. But because they're notched, both are firing. So we can use both at the same time. So when I'm talking about this, we're not just talking about an ability to shrink the amygdala. Now, the more we shrink the amygdala, the less confirmation bias we have. The more advanced our brain function, the less we're going to be affected by confirmation bias. Because the minute you do that, you broaden your perspective and the way you're going to look at things. So what we're really doing is training the brain to be able to think outside of the box so that it can better problem solve, so that it can look at complex data in multiple ways, so that complex data is easier to address, is easier to answer. And once we're able to do that, once we're able to think outside of our box, our reasoning ability increases, and so does our IQ. So what I really want to talk about tonight, and this is my real goal going forward, is I want to make sure I get you exercises. So I'll do this quick little explanation of whatever we're talking about, and then give you exercises on how to improve that. Now, I left the lion's share of the time on this topic to the exercises because they are far more than I can do in a single session. If you're a person that already has a high IQ, say an IQ over 140, what I'm going to give you can possibly improve your IQ if what I'm sharing isn't not applicable. If what I'm sharing isn't within the realm of your neurons that are notched, if what I'm giving is new information, it can increase your IQ. It might be nominally, anybody below an IQ of 130 is going to gain great advantage from what I'm talking about. Most of us above that, above 150, are going to already, our brain's going to kind of function in this way, so it may not seem new. So if you want that, we'd have to get more into advanced work or private sessions to be able to do those increases. Pardon me. So, but what I want to do is start with this so that it's accessible to everyone. So it doesn't matter where you're beginning, where your IQ is now. This will definitely increase it if you do it consistently. Now, I always advise 20 minutes a day. I recommend those 20 minutes are right before we go to sleep, because that's when it's when the brain is most open to transformation. So, with these exercises, they're going to seem familiar to some people, but what I want you to do is really hear what I'm saying when I talk about what you're going to do here, because you may feel like you're already doing this if you've been doing my program for a while, but I want you to hear the subtleties of the different. So I'm going to take you back to this phase 3 practice of imagine being somewhere, but I want you to imagine being a place you've never been. So if you've never been to South America or France or the North Pole or the moon, pick a place literally that is completely foreign to you. Don't look it up. Don't try to know it. Connect with just using your imagination. So what you're going to do is make sure you've done a phase 1 and a phase 2 practice before you begin, especially for phase 2. Make sure you're very centered. I had this interesting experience as I was looking for a job last week, and I was doing some of the aptitude tests, and there was one day where I wasn't really grounded, and I did really horrible on really simple tests that I would usually just ace, because that brain function's not available. Even if we have a really high IQ, it's not always available. Like if we're in fight or flight, it shuts down, like that prefrontal cortex concept of being able to do really complex problems. So make sure you're centered first, but then I want you to you're going to pick a place you've never been. And what you're going to do is, whether you close your eyes or however you get yourself centered, I want you to connect with the place through a sense of not having any experience there. So again, you're not going to look it up. If you've seen pictures of a place, go someplace else to begin with. You can go back to that place you've seen pictures of after you've done it for a while, but I want you to pick a place that's completely foreign to you. Go to the center of the earth. Go to any planet you want. Go to an afterlife you believe in, a pre-existence, whatever, a place you've never visited before. And then what I want you to do is I want you to just allow the first sensory connection. Now, this can look like sight, sound, taste, touch, or smell. It can also be the feeling, the internal feeling, sixth sense. And so, like for a person that's sight, you might start to see, say it's the moon, you might start to see the texture of the moon, or find yourself inside of a crater that has a very specific quality. Pardon me, don't know where that came from. That has a specific quality to it. If it's sound, you want to just listen with your imagination. And if you're in the center of the earth, there might be the sound of plates shifting or bubbles. Like if you've ever been to someplace like Yellowstone, and that noise those hot pots make because it's such dense mud in there, and then it's bubbling. It might be that kind of sound around you. Or if you're outside, it might be the sound of leaves or birds or something. And you don't have to know where you are to begin. In fact, it's better if you don't. If you just go, okay, I'm going to see where I end up, and then you listen to what's happening. There was one I did where I just saw green, and at first as it expanded out, I assumed it was a parrot feather, but then it turned out to be a giant leaf. and I found myself in a jungle, in a tropical rainforest. So it could come like that, where you don't quite know what it is at first. If it's touch, it might be that you feel something brushing against your skin, or you feel the temperature of the air. Like if you're in the Arctic, you might realize that it's cold. Or the bottom of the ocean, you might feel the weight, the density of the water. The internal feeling, taste and smell, again, you're going to connect with those like the others, where you're just going to become aware that there's a scent or a flavor. When it comes to the internal feeling, it's going to be that sense of things. So like I sense movement around me. There was a practice I did where it was a dragon, and I kept getting glimpses and feeling the movement of it around me before I finally understood what it was. So connecting there. Now, what the most important part of this is describing it, so articulating it. The more you describe, the more information will come. So like that example of that leaf, when I just saw the green, I was describing the green, and then I was like, I think it might be a parrot feather. And then eventually it was, I saw it was a leaf, and I realized I was in, it felt kind of like a thicket, but it was big leaves, not dense, like the thickets might be here. It was more of just a little break in the forest that was small enough for me to sit in. And I wasn't there alone, so another person showed up. And that's another thing. You may have people show up, you may have animals or creatures or random anything. You just don't know what's going to show up. But as you start describing it, more will show up. This is very similar to shamanic journeying. If you've done shamanic journeying, this would be the same concept, only you're not using a drum, and you don't necessarily need to go through the traditional practices to go to the lower, middle, or upper worlds. But I do want you to begin there. Now, you're not going to stop there. And this is going to be the most important part. So what happens is when the brain goes into observation mode, it goes into that advanced processing, but it also goes into an observational row. So there's something to that reason that goes beyond figuring it out. So when we get into the figuring it out part of the brain, we box everything into our rules. When you're in an actually innovative, high IQ reasoning state, it's like this experience of thinking and observing at the same time. So for me, I always go really silent, and I tend to start to almost feel like I'm looking back inside of my brain, trying to find things, trying to find pieces. But I'm also open to new information, to new feedback. And so it's an observational role combined with it. So the best way to transition into an observational state is to go through a transition in your practice. So wherever you find yourself, once you describe it really well and you've been there, it might be a day, it might be, just riding for a little bit. It could be that it really takes you, can take a month to get a really clear picture of where you are. But once you know and it's clear and easy to see, you want to transition to a new view. Once it's easy to see, it loses its value to the brain. And this is the problem. People might engage in something where they do this, but then they get stuck in that thought. Then they get stuck. So they're kind of moving through one tar pit after the other. If you want to avoid the tar pits, you never fully engage in the final vision. And so once you get a really clear picture, what you want to do is look around for a transition point. It could be a door, it could be some stairs, it could be a hole in the ground, or a vortex, or it could be turning around and facing the other direction. The one thing you want to be open to is that whatever's on the other side of it can be completely different. So I know somebody who was arches kept showing up, and so here's this arch you see, but yet you cross through it and it's completely different on the other side. I had that with doors. Like, I see these door frames that were just in the middle of nowhere, and I've seen this in movies, so it's obviously not just me that experiences this. It's like this door frame, and you can see the landscape on the other side of the door frame, but when you open the door, it's a different reality inside. That's what we're looking for. The minute that we really connect with and understand the reality we're in, we want to transition again, and we want to keep doing this. 20 minutes a day for just a few weeks, and is going to improve. Now, there are a lot more advanced. Like I said, if you want to improve it more than just a few points, it's going to take some deeper practices and some real challenging of your brain. I recommend engaging in more of the phase 3 practices that I talk about. I also do private sessions, and we have an advanced practices content group where I talk a little bit about some pieces we can do to do significant points, really have a significant impact on the IQ. So if you are interested in learning more, there are 2 things you can do. Go get involved in phase 3. You can join the advanced practices content group, where we're working on mostly phase 4 conversation. Also, I do private sessions. I'm limited in how many I can do, so I'm only taking on so many new people, but and that's for a limited time. So if you want to do something on that, I recommend sooner rather than later. Plus, my private session prices are going up in September. So what I would like, the other thing, right, if you want to learn more about the brain and the phase 1 and 2 practices that will help this process be much easier, there is a free Relief of Suffering, Relief of Suffering, Introduction to Brain Chemistry course on my website. So you just go to the website, education, and then courses. That one other update for those of you that came here through Meetup, I am canceling my Meetup subscription. It takes a lot of time and it takes some money. So I have created a calendar on my website. And so if you go to the website and go what's happening, you'll find a drop-down menu that has the About Us, Success Stories, and then there's the calendar, the event calendar. That's where you'll find the links to these events and information on what's coming up. I'm having a retreat, a virtual retreat in July. That is a meditation retreat. We'll also be having other events. So that's a new addition for those of you that have come through Meetup. So I think that's everything, and I don't see that there are any questions. And so I do want to remind you that the last 20 seconds of the video will give you a chance to subscribe if you're interested. Again, 2 more people and we get a channel name. I'll also have a link to the Introduction to Brain Chemistry video and the other brain hacks. So those will all show up in the last 20 seconds of the video. So I think that's all I have on this, with no other questions. I hope I was thorough enough. If you have any questions, after I've processed the video, you can just put those in comments and I will address them. Or you can contact me on any social media or find me through Contact Us on the website. So I think that'll be it for tonight. I'm so happy you joined me. For those of you in the private group, I will see you at 7 p.m. on Google Meet, not on Zoom anymore. And for those of you that are going to start the program, the Your Way Recovery, it will go live at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Very exciting moment. And again, if you're moved at all by either the need of our country to conquer the epidemic that is addiction, or if you've ever suffered, if you suffer, please visit the program. It's amazing. Even if you're been in recovery for a long time and you're doing really well, it does continually improve. Life can continually improve. It doesn't need to be a fight to stay. And if you're in another addiction recovery program, this complements that. You don't have to leave. It's not, mine just explains what's happening with addiction, what the brain's doing, and why certain practices work and others don't. So it can help you to refine your program to take full advantage of it. So it does work partnered with other programs. So again, there are some shifts to what will happen on Saturday. I'll be giving those updates later. But in the meantime, I just do wish everyone tremendous success on their journey. And I look forward to seeing you along the way. Just thank you so much for being a part of what I do. And going forward, if you have any comments or questions or want to get involved or anything like that, just let me know. I'm happy to have the support and the participation. So again, and for those of you that have been contributing today, thank you so much. It's the best birthday present I could ask for, is to be able to launch this program. And so you're helping me do that. So thank you so much for your contributions. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate them. So again, I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. And I'll be posting the topic for that one. But until then, again, have a wonderful evening.